Okay, are we live?
All right, thanks. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
of the
States,
United States of America,
to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jill, is there some special language that we need to read in because we're zooming?
At the beginning.
All right, would you like to do that, please?
In accordance with the governor's executive orders relating to COVID-19, in-person attendance of tonight's redevelopment commission meeting is limited. The meeting was slated to start at 6 p.m. You can view the meeting via our website at cedarlakein.org, view-town-meetings, then click on View Broadcast under the live broadcast. You have to join the meeting through the link in order to participate during public comment. You can raise your hand electronically for participation during public comment. As we're going through this nature of various meetings, the town accepts public comment submitted electronically. If you have questions or comment about an item on the agenda, you can email that question or comment to jill.murr@cedarlakein.org. And I will ensure that any submissions are shared with the board members, and they will also be entered into the minutes of the meeting.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Sorry, I guess next up top. All right, Sarah, can you roll call?
Nathan Biss,
Here.
Eric Burnham,
Here.
Doug Spencer,
Here.
Jolie Kovach is absent, Randy Niemeyer,
Present.
Denny Wolkening,
Yes.
Brian Smith is absent, Robert Carnahan,
Here,
Jill Murr,
Present.
David Austin,
Present.
Jennifer Sandberg, and myself.
All right, very good. Thank you for that. We're going to commence this evening with the presentation, TIF district presentation. I understand that we have on the line from London Whitty, Robert Swintz. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All
Good
right,
evening. Can you hear me okay?
gotcha.
This is the second time we've had this kind of a meeting. About 2 years ago, the legislature put into effect a requirement for all redevelopment commissions that they hold a public meeting and invite all the impacted taxing units that make up allocation areas of the municipality. So your counties, your schools, obviously the townships, would all have been invited this evening to ask questions, to see information about your allocation areas in the collection and use of your tax increment. I believe you should have received the financial report that we had put together based on financial information as of December 31st of 2019. We have really two separate economic development areas. You may recall that we had created two and then consolidated those a number of years ago to the consolidated Cedar Lake 133rd Avenue Economic Development Area. And we had also established the SVT Economic Development Area for the grocery store project that was done a number of years ago. If you look at Schedule 1A, this is a projected cash flow statement for your consolidated allocation area. It shows the beginning balance of your allocation funds as of 2020, the estimated TIF, which we'll get into in a second, and then current debt service that is paid on a couple of your bonds. I just point out for 2020, the collection of TIF revenues and the balance for this calendar year 2020 really needs to fund 3 debt service payments. You would have funded the February 1 payment, which would have been made, the August 1 payment coming up, and then your balance should be available to make your your next February 1, 2021 payment. So that's why you have additional debt service in that 2020 year. On the estimated TIF, at least at this point, and maybe Jennifer can help me, I don't believe Lake County has made a distribution at this point.
Right now, no, Lake County has not made their decision.
And so these estimated TIF revenues are based on the certified assessed value and the certified tax rates that we had going into this calendar year. So we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the timing. Certainly, based on what we've seen around the state, we are probably not going to receive the full amount of tax increment in the initial distribution, with payments not due until July 10th. I have not been told what the county auditor intended to do in terms of a settlement, supplemental settlement, and any advances from the fall distribution. But as you look through that projected cash flow, you can see that based on the projections, and we don't include any increases, we don't assume any increase in incremental assessed value or tax rate, that as long as we can get back to normal and collect the TIF based on the certified numbers, we can easily pay the debt service that's due. And then that leaves money left over for other pay-as-you-go type projects that I believe that you're involved in now, including some infrastructure, some land acquisition, and I believe there's a professional services contract for some economic development study type work. The balance of the schedules just are backup to show where those funds reside at December 31st in the various allocation funds shown on Schedule 1B. 1C will show you the certified incremental assessed value and the net tax rate. Again, a couple years ago, the legislature passed that for referendum rates, those are not eligible to be collected in tax increments, so we have to net those out. And you can see that in your consolidated area, we've split out how much assessed value is in the Hanover Township and the Center Township. The schedule on 1D kind of addresses the timeline for your various TIF districts. Each separate allocation area and supplemental expansion has its own life. So you'll note that on the date each of those separate allocation areas was created, the termination date for each. So at this point, your first area expires in 2029, and then that goes through pretty much the 2030 period, where at this point in June of 2038, all of your TIF areas would expire, and all of those assessed values, incremental assessed values, then are released back to all the taxing units. Exhibits A1 and A2 just reflect the debt service going forward for each of the bonds that are outstanding. I know that there had been issues related to the SVT bond issue and TIF collections. I'm not sure what the legal status of those are right now. I do not believe you're making debt service payments, but you're collecting the TIF and holding it until some resolution has been made. And again, the meeting is set up. Sorry, I don't know if any of the taxing units have attended this evening, or if there are questions concerning any of that information, we'd be happy to answer.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from the commission to Robert? Robert, I have one question. Based upon your analysis of these funds and other funds that you see around the state, is the amount of principal that we're holding in these accounts consistent, meaning from a ratio perspective as to what you see elsewhere?
For the majority of the redevelopment commissions that we work with, I would say you're above average. Maintaining a balance that you are has been good planning. We have some redevelopment commissions that barely make enough to pay debt service, and then we have some that could probably fund small countries. So I think you're in good shape. It will allow you to get through any issues we would have, like with the COVID-19 and the delay of payments. You've made yourself safe there. So I would think you're in good shape.
Other questions from the commission? Eric, did you have any?
I have one.
Go ahead.
Nathan,
Yep, go ahead, Bob.
on Schedule 1B, it lists 673 SBT, which that stands for, I believe, Strachan Till, and it's got $46,237.31. And is that 2019 figure? And Jennifer, I asked it last month, is that in an escrow account?
Go ahead, Jennifer.
So that 46,000.
Bob, we're getting the answer for you.
Okay.
All right.
So
bear with me, Bob.
All right. Thank you.
I apologize, Bob. I don't have my correct report in front of me, but from what you're looking at in that report that Mr. Swenson's prepared for us, that 673 correlates to the U.S. bank account, the bondholder. And that 46,000, I would have to double check for you to get you an accurate answer, but I believe that correlates with the last payment that Mrs. Gross had made before she left office, which was the beginning of 2018, I believe. She had made a payment to US Bank before all the bankruptcy stuff really came to light with SVT. That's not, it goes on our books, but it's not with us, it's with US Bank.
So perhaps a different way to ask the question is, the payments that we were to have made over the past couple of years due to bankruptcy, we've held on to those, correct?
We have held on to those, and that's what previously we had talked about investing.
Right.
I do have them set aside for you guys, but I have not invested them just because stuff hit the fan, so to speak, with COVID, and interest rates like completely bottomed out, and I didn't want to have there be a potential issue getting your cash if you guys needed them for debt service or for any of the other projects you already made obligations to.
Okay, Bob, does that answer your question?
Yes, but that 46,000 plus, is that a 2019 or is that 2020 figure?
That's from 2018, Bob.
Okay, 2018. Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission for Robert? Hearing none, we'll turn it over to the public. Are there any questions from the public in regards to the TIF district presentation that has been made? Hearing none, any questions from legal or town folks?
Nathan, I don't have a question, but I have a report.
Okay.
We can advance it on this agenda to now tracks Bob Swenson's question.
Okay.
About legal on the SVT LLC bankruptcy and bond. Just last week, I had a meeting telephonic meeting with the attorneys from Better Price for the bankruptcy trustee involved in the Sacramento Central Grocery's bankruptcy. They're at the back end of that bankruptcy, and they're scrapping away trying to get barnacles off of the remaining assets, if you will, to cover for the creditors what still may be out there. Bill Facenda and one of his partners participated because of the nature of the bonds and the questions that were being asked. And it occurred to Bill and myself at the conclusion of that conversation that the folks involved had an oh my about the probability that somebody made a mistake in the bankruptcy filings, didn't make the right filing, and didn't protect the client. We made a mistake here too. We made a mistake. Your clerk treasurer before Jennifer made a payment without an invoice. That should never have happened. Probably we would be holding made without that. There are technical breaches of the trust indenture for that bond issue, and we're not thinking they're going to get into those trenches too deep for the return that, well, squeezing blood, if you will, might not be worth it. So that's twice in the last 6 weeks I've discussed this with bankruptcy attorneys, the bankruptcy trustee, and we need to keep setting aside funds. That's my recommendation. Hold them until there's a disposition. Who knows, we may end up negotiating it or having some kind of dialogue that results in a disposition short of Armageddon litigation. No, we don't want that. But that's the status as we sit here today.
Okay.
Looks like there's better prospects tonight than I reported to you in the past because there's been dialogue. So that's the status. Bob Swins, did you catch that?
Bob, did you catch that?
Bob's not there.
Bob has left the building. Okay. All right. Well, if there's any questions for Dave on that last comment? Hearing none. Bob, we thank you for your presentation. If we have any follow-up, we'll be sure to remit it in writing to you.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. All right. We're going to move on with the agenda. Number 2 on the agenda was a presentation of recognition to the 2 Cedar Lake True Values here in town. They contacted us shortly before the meeting. They had a recent conflict emerge this afternoon. They asked if they could be rescheduled for July 20, and we'll be happy to do that. Thank you, Sarah, for coordinating that. Next is our consent agenda. We look for a motion to approve the May 18, 2020 meeting minutes. Claims Fund 404 in the amount of $913.59. Fund 804 in the amount of $4,645.53. And to approve the clerk treasurer funds report for information. Is there a motion to that end?
So moved.
There a second?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion.
Who made the motion and seconded it?
Mr. Niemeyer made the motion and Doug made the second.
Thank you.
Jill, I have one question. This American Structure Point, is that the last bill that we're going to owe to American Structure Point for the roundabout?
No, sir.
How much more do we anticipate?
Not much. We're at the closeout. We'll do the walkthrough on June 25th.
Okay.
So it's dwindling down to the final paperwork.
Okay. Any other questions on those 3 items? Hearing none, if we can do a roll call, Sarah?
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Nathan Viss.
Yes. All right, that passes. Moving on to new business, explore everyday community recognition. It was good to see, I think we had a farmer's market, which was well attended. We've heard.
Well attended and several vendors sold out by 10 minutes after 5
That's a good problem to have.
of baked goods anyway.
That's awesome.
And with that wind, it was quite creative.
You did a lot of ballast to keep the tents down.
Go here on Thursday nights, or what night do they come?
Wednesday.
Wednesday?
Yeah, second and fourth Wednesday.
With that noted, are there any recommendations for an Explore Everyday community recognition?
I had, I had made mention of PC Marine after watching hundreds and hundreds of boats just zooming past my, my front door there, and taking note that, gee, this is something that really brings a lot of business into the potential business into the community. But then, even at True Value and at PC Marine, it seems as though, we kind of, when we started this program, we kind of were looking at new businesses coming in town and making the recommendation to get a bit of a recognition. And then we, heck, we were giving people awards and they didn't even open the doors yet there. And now that I'm thinking here, we're getting down to, I'm going to call these guys the more of the founders or the companies that have been around for a long time. And I'm wondering if maybe there should be, such as True Value Hardware, such as PC Marine, and I'm thinking of the Capers, the floral shop and things like that. Maybe kind of set it in a different group setting there, because there are quite a few companies that have been around here for a long, long time. And it kind of hit me a little bit when Great Oaks was here, I guess a couple meetings ago. And, Tom had been with this town for quite some time. And, and he seemed to be quite pleased that we recognized him. He was very pleased with that. And that kind of struck me there. And here I'm thinking, we were giving these recognitions out of these brand new company, businesses that are coming into town. And I'm wondering if we should call it and is a round table discussion here. We should call it a different kind of recognition when we get to some of these companies that have been in the community for, years. I realize that, the town is really only, 50 years old or whatever, but there's been some businesses been here for a really long time. Am I right, Pete? And they are kind of, they've been paying that, TIF money taxes as any business does.
Mm-hmm.
And, but they kind of deserve a bit of I'm thinking a different kind of recognition.
Do you have a suggestion?
I don't know, something, maybe a little bit of a different kind of a plaque or whatever, but and recognize them for their long service in the town.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful as to buying folks plaques or memorabilia. I had a client that got in trouble for it years ago. They spent about $75 on a nice plaque for a clerk treasurer conservancy district. That being said, it is possible to do it. A number that comes to mind is, what if we called it the Founders, or Explore Everyday Founders Community Recognition? And we got, for anyone, if we do recognize somebody that's been here longer than, say, a decade, they would get that, and we would cap out something to that extent.
If we step back in time to when that branding was done and was formulated, it was meant to wrap its arms around the history and include the history. So the Explore Everyday thing as part of the branding included that history. I don't know. I think that given the Explore Everyday award to historical businesses is, it's, to me, it makes sense. I don't think we need to separate it out because everybody's contributing. We recognize some new businesses. We've recognized some old ones. And I think as we go through this, we'll end up recognizing everybody at some point or another. So I don't know. I think the Explore Everyday brand itself, if you remember the process we went through, was really about honoring our history and forging that path forward based on that foundation. When you look at our logo, it says that it's very forward thinking, the logo itself, but it still has that deep rooted connection to who we are.
So, I mean, I think your suggestion of Pinecrest Marina, there's probably not a more appropriate business, especially this time of year, than them. Just because of what you said, that's an access point for people from around the Midwest to come and launch their boats and enjoy the lake and enjoy our community.
There's a lot of people in the
It
community,
sure does.
you know.
Yeah, and Bob and his family have been longtime contributors to the community too. So recognizing someone like them is very appropriate.
I would just like to add a comment about the boating, that Memorial Day weekend, Pinecrest Marina, North Point, and the Chamber were all full and had no availability to let another boater in. And they were backed up all the way into the roundabout. We need to look for another place, possibly to launch boats.
Well, I think, Bob, to that point, that's a conversation for a separate day. And to the extent that the RDC can help, I think we'd have to explore where we can contribute or participate. And I think it's a good problem to have when you're at max capacity. Doug, did you have a motion that you want to make?
No, I kind of just want to kind of roundtable it there. I was concerned that we might be, stepping on some toes by, pushing the founders end a little bit there. But if anything, just we need to make sure that we catch those businesses that have been here for a long time.
And that's a really solid note. I think it's appropriate that when they do come in, if I forget, that another member of this commission make sure that we extend to them our hearty thanks for their extensive years of commitment to the community.
Right.
So absolutely.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to recognize Pinecrest Marina as the Explore Everyday Community Recognition recipient.
And I would like to second that.
All right, so we've got a motion by Randy, second by Eric for Pinecrest Marina for Explore Everyday Community Recognition for June 2020. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Sarah, can you call for question?
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Nathan Viss.
Yes. All right, thank you all. Good comments. Moving on to new business B, facade grants, applicant 20-8, Kozlowski. Pete, how we doing, sir?
Good, how are you today?
Okay, doing well. Come on forward.
My name is Pete Kozlowski, and I first would like to thank the commission for granting our previous request for $16,000 for our facade improvement. And hearing through the grapevine that there were additional monies that were not granted, we'd like to ask for the full amount of $25,000 at this point in time, if the commission so chooses to do that.
Okay. And since we last met, were you here last time, or was it your son?
My son, Matt, was here.
Matt was here. Okay. All right. Have any changes been made to the application as originally submitted?
No, just the price has gone up.
Okay. And when you say, is that from the contractors that you're going to utilize?
Yeah, we've been dealing with contractors that have no lack of work. And the problem that we see is we're getting bids that are much higher than what we had originally anticipated. We're probably looking at about $150,000 for the remodel of the building. So,
what was the initial bid, Pete?
We thought it would be probably about $100,000. We were allowing to about $125,000, but what we're seeing for the contractors is they're so busy that they're throwing out bids that in some cases just don't make sense. So as a response to that, we said, well, we're going to continue to do the whole building as we planned. It's just that the cost is going to be higher.
Okay. Questions from the commission?
What is our current balance left in that?
$59,424.50 is what you have remaining of the $60,000 you guys had.
That includes what we've made a commitment for.
You committed to $40,575.50.
Okay.
And that includes the 16,000 or so that was committed to Pete, right?
Yeah, that 41.
We're in June now, about halfway through the year. It's funny you say that, Pete, about contractors and jacking up the prices here. I recently I filled a swimming pool for a guy who lives in unincorporated Crown Point, and he had a bunch of paver work done at his house. And the landscapers out in this area were quoting him anywhere between 150 and 200,000. And he went over to Illinois for 90 grand because there's nothing going on in Illinois.
Yeah.
It's absolutely dead and people are just looking for work. So a group came from Illinois, traveled 50 miles to get to his house and did it for 50 grand less. It's pretty interesting to see that shift. It used to be Illinois contractors were really expensive and incremental, cheap. And now that's changed.
We're trying to use local contractors. In fact, most of our contractors are from the St. John, Crown Point, Cedar Lake area. So we're making use people that are local, but everybody's coming in at higher than what we expect with bids. And I spent 21 years in the construction industry and have a pretty good idea of costs, and everybody is just full right now. Right now,
job, or did just give you complimentary bids?
Well, we sent out over 25 different bids. I mean, we had 4 structural construction companies that we bid to. We had 2 glass. We had 3 masonry. I mean, we did, due diligence with the number of bids we sent out, and we're pretty happy with what we've got. To give you an example, our masonry bid that we've accepted is $22,000. The next closest bid to that is $40,000. So, I mean, almost double from what we actually took the bid for. So.
The upticks, Pete, that you're looking at, are they interior increases or are they exterior increases?
All exterior increases. Yeah.
Thoughts from the commission, Mr. Burnham? Any questions?
I do. When did we award him the 16,000?
It's been a while.
16th of 2019.
Yeah, it was December of 2019, Eric. Mr. Kozlowski was first in the door.
Oh, so that was our first one. And then his bids he submitted when we came out with that sum to give him, he already had bids out, correct?
Correct.
So to come out, what happened with that time frame? We're 5 months. I know winter, was during winter. March would have rolled in. What happened to the original bids? They didn't honor them?
Yeah, so as a result of, I think it was a meeting ago, Mr. Kozlowski had asked for a 180-day extension due to COVID matters. A lot of things got behind, as well as weather conditions. So we asked for an additional 180-day extension to utilize the funds, which we had extended to him.
Most contractor bids are good for 30 days. So if you don't lock in that bid within 30 days, they reserve the right to take back their bid. And that's what we're seeing now, is that companies that bid to us are now saying, well, we just can't do it for that price.
I think given the increase in value and kind of how we're working these percentage ratios, Pete's request still fits within that number we've kind of set as a goal, as a way to make sure that we have available funds to allocate and we don't get down to zero balance by July. So, I mean, I'd make that motion to grant his request to 25,000.
There a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Bob. Randy made the motion and Doug made the second. Any
And
discussion?
that's for 9,000 additional dollars.
Yes.
Yes, to reach the cap of 25,000.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yep. Any other discussion? Hearing none.
And we're capping it at 25. So, and if this, delays come again and, 90 days goes by and then a cost goes up another, 5 or 7%, we're stuck. He's maxed out at 25.
Yeah. So the way that we developed our facade grant, Eric, it's $25,000 in a given year or $30,000 over a 5-year period.
We
Okay.
expect the project to be done in October, so that's the date we're shooting for. We have construction starting in the next 30 days, so.
Okay. Good question, Eric.
Okay.
Hearing none, other questions, we'll call for the roll. Sarah?
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Nathan Viss.
Yes. Sir, we appreciate you coming in this evening. We appreciate the investment into the community, and it's going to look great. I know we've seen the pictures that you brought back in December, so we're really looking forward to it.
And we appreciate your partnership with us. We really are grateful to the town of Cedar Lake and this commission for granting their request.
Absolutely.
I think many people in the town are grateful to you for your services that you provide them too. So I'm sure the feeling's mutual. A lot of people are pretty happy customers of yours.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right.
Okay.
Have a good night. All right. Moving on to new business, Morse RDC funding. So last meeting brought to the commission as a suggestion talking point that a member of the community had reached out to me and inquired as to whether or not we can make any walking lanes or bicycle lanes when we are doing heat scarification on Morse. Say that 5 times fast. So we bantered it about a bit. A concern was whether or not we could actually put it on the roadway due to the width of the roadway and due to the fact that we already had it under contract. John Foreman and I went round and round with Don, our engineer. And Don, you're on the line?
Yeah.
All right. So Don from Christopher Burke's on the line. Don, if you can share with us a little bit. Good to see your face again, sir.
Good to see yours too.
How many people say that? Could you please share with the commission kind of your research, what you found, what's possible, the cost?
Yeah. Like Nate said, Nate, John, and myself were kind of shooting some emails back and forth over, a couple weeks ago about possibilities of having some type of bike signage or a bike lane on Moore Street. The biggest issue of actually having a dedicated lane is that the current 2 lanes that are there now, we just don't have enough, width to dedicate a totally separate biking lane. And if you want pedestrian traffic, you'd actually rather have that up on a curb. So we just don't have the width for that unless we add it to the width of the road. As part of the CCMG funding, that would require quite a large scope change that the NDOT likely would not accept. So the alternative to that is providing a shared lane. So really that would just provide striping for bicycle traffic in a shared capacity. It would essentially have a bike stripe layout every 250 feet minimum. And we're dealing with about 13,000 feet from 133rd to 153rd times by 2 for each lane of traffic. And you're looking at about 106 of those striped bicycle markings. And they run anywhere from $250 to $300 a stripe. So you're talking in the neighborhood of about $30,000, and that would be considered a scope change as well, and would be likely 100% on the town's dime, since the CCMG funds have already been awarded.
So one of the critical questions, Don, was from a safety perspective, is it feasible and reasonable to put these bike indicators here, recognizing that we can't do a full pedestrian walkway area, and your assessment is that this is feasible, other communities are doing it?
It is feasible. Obviously, we would love additional width to have more of a dedicated and actual striped. When I say an actual stripe, to actually have a white barrier stripe to separate traffic from the actual bicycle traffic, but we just don't have the continual, consistent width throughout that corridor. When you do these shared bike lanes, you obviously want it on lanes of traffic where your speed limits are rather low. I believe Morse is 30, so I think we'd be comfortable with that. We can also add signage to that too. Signage is not required, but oftentimes you can stagger those out. They don't have a minimum or maximum requirement for spacing. But I mean, we can include those too. It's kind of up to you, but the minimum you want to see is that striping every 250 feet.
Okay. Jill, go ahead.
Anyone who wants to see what one of these looks like on 101st Avenue. So I call it Exchange, heading west into Illinois off of White Oak. They have a share the lane. So this is a bike marking in the actual traffic lane. And what I did notice, at least for myself, was it does alert people too. There's going to be bicycles in the road. It's not your traditional bike lane off to the side, but it is alerting people now that
You're right.
it's
Yep.
something different. It's not, that bike lane you're expecting to see on the right side of the road. This is in the lane of traffic. So it's alerting people, and the markings, I think, make it safer. Some people, but it's not going to be a dedicated lane.
Right.
To clarify that for anyone.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, question for Mr. Oliphant.
Yep.
Hey, Don, along that Morse corridor, you said we have inconsistent widths. Do we have enough consistency in the width to add a couple of feet of pavement?
We could. The right of way through that corridor is decently wide where we could. It would just be a matter of adding that scope change to the project, and it would most likely be all on the town dime. It would not be part of the split.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be part of the split. I'm just looking at options, because to me, the bike lane that you recommend as our town increases in traffic, I don't know if that's the safest option, or if it reaches the goal of what we have is to create a more bike and pedestrian friendly community. I don't know if that reaches that goal. And if we're going to spend $30,000 on that, and we have to spend $200,000, $300,000 on a little more of a comprehensive project that gets us closer to the goal, then it's worth that investment, in my opinion.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
The easiest place to do that would be on the east side of the road, just because it's less populated. There's less driveways. There's less roads coming into it. If you did it on the west side of the road, especially obviously north of 145th, there's a lot more driveway, entrances. You have a lot more of your public streets that kind of tee off that direction as well, and a lot more grade change, I think, as well, especially through like the Surprise Park corridor and all that. That would be more difficult. East side would be kind of the direction you'd want to go, and we'd have to still have some type of separator from traffic. You can do like plastic delineators. You can do curbs, which is obviously the most expensive option, but you probably have to add 3 to 4 feet of pavement in some areas at least. So, I mean, it's doable.
Obviously, we would need cost estimates on that, and Nathan and I talked before the meeting about the possibility of using park impact fee funds as one of the sources to support that development, since it is a recreational development. So we do have some options I think we could lay on the table as a way to make that the first piece of the larger goal, which is all the way around the lake to have that access.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. I think what would be great is if we could at least start the process of creating the feel that around the lake is a pedestrian area. What you described originally, Don, I think is a good first step. But if what was just described can be done for a reasonable amount, and we do have park impact funds to use for it, I'd suggest we go that route. I came into tonight's meeting going to suggest that we make a recommendation or a motion to use TIF funds for that $30,000 for that painting. However, credit to where credit's due, Jill suggested before the meeting, hey, look, what if we recommend instead to the council that we use park impact fees and funds for this, because this is definitely pedestrian and recreational. So I think it'd be appropriate, this is the direction the commission's going, to make a motion to recommend to the town council to explore and utilize park impact funds to widen Morse where appropriate to create a separate bike lane.
I mean, we can come back with cost estimates and basically ready for your next meeting next month. Obviously, we want to get the project going as quickly as we can, get it done this summer. We just started coring the road to kind of figure out our best recycling emulsion mix today. That should have been done today. It goes to the lab hopefully later this week. And then this would be the only other outlier. Otherwise, the plans and specs and contract docs are ready to go. So, but we can look into the widening over the next 2 weeks or so and get you numbers for your next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
Do we?
Nathan, I mean, if you want to defer this, awaiting those numbers, I could make this as a report to the council tomorrow night of what was discussed here tonight. And that way there's awareness and we're prepared to act when the numbers are there.
Okay. That'd be great. Don, thanks for your work. Appreciate it. And then we'll look forward to your report on this. So we appreciate your quick turnaround on this as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Anything else from the commission for Don? Nope.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Yep.
Last item underneath new business is acquisition commercial center property extend roadway. Randy, does this fall underneath your report or Dave, or do you want me to handle it? This is for the commercial development out near the Shillings.
I think you've been the lead of this so far, so
Okay. All right.
dive in, Nathan.
Let me think into the memory bank. So we've got, if you look past current, let's see, right by the Casey's, if you turn down that roadway, I forget which road it is. Industrial Drive. We need to extend the roadway to connect to a planned development that the Shillings have planned, a commercial development.
You're talking about on industrial?
On industrial, right.
So part of that end of that roadway is owned by a private property owner, Bill and his group from West PGM.
Correct.
My suggestion will be is that if that is our intention, is to extend that roadway, first we need to acquire the roadway, which we haven't done yet. Secondly, we need to sit down and negotiate with Mr. Teal. As him being a private property owner, he has that right to own that private property, and we have the need to act like good neighbors and speak with him and see if we can find a way to work with him to be able to extend that road, because we have to go through him to get there. And I don't think anyone on the council will be real comfortable with the idea of making a take on it.
Okay. So probably the next best step is probably to ask our council to investigate what the status of the existing roadway is.
I've had that before, right?
Fire away, sir.
The roadway has been appraised. We have 2 appraisals. We have an offer ready to be made. Waiting direction from the council to pull the trigger. That bag coming here and having the dialogue with the commission. That was the intervening factor, but otherwise we're ready to go.
Okay.
Including sitting down with Mr. Teal.
Okay. So I think the question is this commission in favor of utilizing commission funds to acquire roadway and or assist in acquisition, whether an eminent domain, or we would prefer amicable conversation with the Teals to acquire that piece so that we can extend that roadway?
I don't know of any other source right now where we could identify money available. Our CDET money has been kind of tied up in some road projects. That would be the other source that would be possible. We've got quite a bit committed out of there, and it's a really small pot. Not to say that this is a voluminous pot that we could just dip into, but based on the appraisal numbers, it's not going to be an unreasonable cost to acquire that. The trick to it in the extension is obviously going to be working with Rich to see how we can formulate something that makes him whole financially for his portion of the private property, but also helps to protect his interest of his business there, because he has a right to exist there.
Yep. Dave, is it appropriate?
There is also a totality of circumstances here. We need to be mindful of that. The parcels south of this roadway parcel are now on market, as you know. The on market availability of that land annexed to the town begs, at least from the north to the south, a connection roadway, and it's likely, although not, I don't have a crystal ball, but it's likely that similar uses could occur on the west side of the railroad tracks on that connection as are on the east side and north, just by where it lays and what it brings to the table and use opportunity for the right buyers, right end users. So if this is part of the incentive, I think we could all anticipate that a newly annexed or to be annexed parcel developed that way is going to bring a substantial amount of TIF revenue to this community, to this commission, and for our future projects, future infrastructure. So it might be, we might get bangs of 10 and 20 to 1 in a foreseeable amount of time. So I would add that. That's the intangible to the thing. It's just on raw numbers. I get it. You're balancing and maintaining your budget, your balances, your obligations, and the delay in TIF revenue and income.
Right. So based on your opinion, Dave, would you recommend, do we need a motion to express to the town council that we're in support of funding, or?
Yes, if you are, that would be great. There's going to be dialogue.
Okay.
We haven't run in there like Sherman and knocked it over. That isn't how we do things.
No, it's not, but we do want to proceed forward. Is there a motion to that extent to express to the town council we support the acquisition of Industrial Drive?
Yes.
Industrial Drive and the end piece necessary to extend the roadway.
And part of the discussion, and exactly why do we want to extend that?
To enable continued commercial development corridor. Or commercial,
Park right
sorry.
now is boxed in.
Got it.
And there are plans with, like Nathan said, the Schilling Group to do some pretty major investment property there, but the road has to be acquired and then extended in order to make that happen. So we would facilitate that acquisition and then work with Rich Teal to extend it. And then it opens the door to millions and millions more investment.
Okay.
Do we have a dollar amount for this to purchase the land, or is that we just don't know yet?
Yeah, we can't put that on the record, Eric. That deals with property acquisition.
Okay, I understand.
Yep. But we can have a special session before our next meeting to discuss it.
In other words, we don't want to negotiate against ourselves.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
Yeah.
To the motion,
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Doug made the motion.
Yeah.
There a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Eric made the second. Discussion. Hearing none. Sarah, roll call.
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Nathan Viss.
Yes. All right. That concludes our new business. We'll move along to project updates.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
going back to the Morse RDC funding item before we move ahead. We kind of left that open. We have a council meeting on July 7th. It might be good to be able to have some numbers by that July 7th meeting, because construction is going to start in that timetable probably shortly thereafter. So we're not going to want to sit on this too long. So maybe there needs to be something from this commission. But I don't even know if there needs to be anything from this commission if we're using park impact.
It would just be a recommendation.
But, what do you?
Yeah, it's an advisory recommendation. Nathan and I did talk about this. It's a good action for the commission to communicate with the council based on the simplicity
So could we go back and offer that?
Yeah.
Advisory recommendation, and that way, if we have something by the July 7th meeting for the council, it can be acted upon with no full support of this as part of the larger project and larger scope of what we're trying to achieve.
So that motion would be to recommend to the town council to explore the use of park impact fees to expand the Morse heat scarification project to enable the creation of a bike lane.
Bike lane.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second it.
discussion. All right.
Randy made the motion
Yes, that's correct.
and Eric second.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank
Sarah,
you.
roll call.
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer,
Yes.
Nathan Viss.
Yes. All right, thanks, Randy. Project updates. Jill, if you want to tackle, we've got 4 there. Which ones are underneath your purview, please?
The roundabout project is coming to a close. We will be preparing the punch list of items on June 25th at 9 a.m. We'll do that walkthrough and then get those items addressed. The JMA Gateway, one of those items we had discussed earlier in the year was that entranceway over the railroad. At this time, we wanted to bring it back up just
I've been wondering about that.
so it didn't disappear, but at this time, until we know the true impact of what kind of funds we're going to see, it's kind of on the shelf, but wanted to keep it in front of you as that's still a project that we want to consider looking at. That's the same with hill stability. We had discussed that, but that's kind of where we left off. Don had done a review of that area. Don't know that we were going to do anything there, but it was to kind of refresh it and bring it back up. And then another item that I had thought of driving around the lake before the meeting was Lincoln Plaza. One of the things we had discussed when we did that entranceway there, Broadway Lincoln Plaza, was putting up a sign. So helping those local businesses out by having signage up there to direct people to their businesses. So those were kind of update items that we still need to consider, but I think knowing that we won't see any tax collections and know our true impact till after June 30th. Those are kind of on hold right now, but I wanted to keep them in the minutes that they're not forgotten. They're waiting on some potential funding and seeing where we're going to wind up.
Appreciate that. I'd be good if the commission's okay with it. Let's continue to keep those items on as project updates and as we further know our numbers and we can address. Eric, you good with that?
Yeah, that's reasonable, Nathan.
I am.
And again, just to report back, Council Affairs Committee and Jen, myself, we're all working with financial advisors to have a game plan moving forward.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to stick yellow against the wall there, you know, it's the target's moving all the time right now.
We understand. Dave, any hood lust damages update?
No, I don't have a hearing date.
Okay.
Stuff, but
Okay.
probably September, October, November, or when a judge will give it to us.
I've got one update. The project, still confidential, but we'll call it Lakeshore Bluffs. We hired Veritas Group last month. I had good dialogue with a representative of them last week. I have a proposed letter of intent. It's not everything that I'd wanted. So I'll be going back to Marlin this week, and I hope to get to everyone by the end of this week a rough draft letter of intent that we can then share with our proposed partner. So Dave, I'll get that to you as soon as I make my revisions to it so you can see it. The way that I'm approaching it, so the commission's aware, just because it's such a moving target, is it's more of a framework of what we hope to accomplish in certain time periods so that we can keep on task as we move forward, and Veritas Group is aware and abreast of what we want done during those months. It's kind of our voice piece. So, but I've also let our partner know that this is where things stand, so they've stayed abreast of it as well. Written communications have not received anything. Anyone else from the Jill?
Communications, if I could let Sarah speak on this one real quick for me, since she's at a microphone. We had requests on the American flags that are usually donated by Charlie Caper and Cedar Lake Forest.
So Charlie quoted $3.50, says that he has 2 full boxes and a partial box, so he believes he has about a total of 70 available flags. This would be flags that are hung on the posts up and down throughout the town. Tim Kubiak asked for all of them if funding was available.
So hold on, do the math. Was it 200?
We're gonna ballpark not to exceed 250 at this point.
And this would be paying Mr. Capers for them? Thoughts from the commission? This would be utilized to decorate the town?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve that.
There a second?
Second here.
Second from Doug. Any discussion?
And in this time, when the American flag and monuments and statues and things that represent freedom are being attacked, it's a pretty good thing to fly our flag proudly and make sure we remember we are one united country. So I'm all in favor of this.
If my memory serves me correctly, I think this was an expense that we did take on. Years are slipping by, 6 years ago, maybe. So this would not be out of the ordinary for us to engage in this expense.
No, we did what we needed between what he had donated and what we needed to fill all of the flagpole papers that we have around.
Okay.
They made in America.
I don't know that answer.
I wish you would find out.
Most American flags are actually made in China and they're made in Thailand. Unfortunately, we've regulated our textile businesses out of business.
I bought them at Menards up there, made in America, $5.50. It's a pretty good price.
Unfortunately, July 4th is coming up and it's going to happen before our next meeting. So,
right. Any further discussion? Sarah, roll call, please.
Doug Spencer,
Yes.
Eric Burnham,
Yes.
Randy.
yes,
Oh, sorry, Randy Niemeyer.
it's okay.
Nathan.
Yes.
Fine with that.
All right. Any public comment? Bob, Mr. Carnahan, I'm going to start with you. Anything from you or from the chamber?
No, but Jennifer gave you a memo with her updated expenditure report. Did any of you look at that?
Yep.
Can't remember.
She indicated that she got one advance in the tax anticipation of $4,999.66. And she indicated that she anticipates a June settlement of no more than $11,500 for Fund 404. It could be less. We need to keep a close eye on the funds for the remainder of the year. I anticipate the update of TIF activity report. I'm still anticipating an impact due to the coronavirus. My estimates are on the conservative side, but I don't anticipate any shortfall that would require temporary borrowing.
All
I
right.
just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Thank you. Any from the public? Just one note, Sarah. Next time, you can just make a note in like project updates that we just slip in there, clerk treasurer updates. That way, if Jennifer's here, that way we can set aside a specific time to answer any questions. Look right over you and don't mean to. We appreciate your work. All right. Anything else from the commission?
So our next meeting we'll meet earlier.
No, I don't think we have to. The involving the bicycle lane, that's the utilization of funds that the town council controls, Eric. So we don't need to meet before then. We just gave our strong recommendation to them to use those funds if the numbers seem appropriate.
Okay.
Yep. And then we'll plan on a session, an executive session beforehand, Sarah, if we can. discuss a couple things at that point. Let's just do a half hour. So we'll meet at 5:30.
Nathan, did we get any update on the GMA Gateway or Hill Stability?
We agreed to hold off on those until next time. Yeah. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
That'll be,